right now. I'm bringing in some of these numbers here that we're seeing. We're looking at CPI on a month-over-month basis coming in up 0.4%. That was a cooling here from the prior reading that we got, but still coming in a little hotter than what the street expected. That core month-over-month print coming in at 0.3% growth, in line with what the street was looking for. Now on a year-over-year basis,
expectations
CPI
and
at 3.7%, so a bit higher there. Core CPI at 4.1%, so a bit of improvement from what we saw the prior month here, Brad. But of course, the big question for the street right now is what this means for the Fed, whether or not it's enough to justify staying on the sideline. Taking a look at the reaction in futures right now, we're still looking like we're going to be looking at gains here at the open, with Dow futures still up just over 100 points.
Yeah, some of the color around this report. The index for shelter is still the largest contributor to the monthly all items increase. Stop me if I sound like a broken record, but that is something that we've continued to track month over month here. But here's where it also gets interesting. Even though that accounted for over half of the increase here, an increase in gasoline index, also a major contributor to the all items monthly rise. Major energy component indexes were mixed in September, though. Energy index, that rose 1.5% over the month. Food index, that increased 0.2% in September, as it did the prior 2 months as well, the report noting here. And then additionally, you think about what this all means for food as well. The index for food at home, that increased 0.1% over the month, while the index for food away from home, people continuing to eat out a little bit more, that's up by about 0.4% in this report.
Yeah, certainly. And judging by the market's reaction, is going to be critical here to see as the street begins to digest these numbers. But still, when you take into account the fact that headline number there coming in a bit hotter than expected, 3.7% year-over-year rise, more than what the street was bracing itself.
So let me go ahead and pull that up real quick. There we go. StreamYard. Love it. And I'll get to you guys' question in a little bit, but I'm going to go over inflation here. Okay. All right, cool. So, okay. There we go. All right, so the CPI rose 0.4% in September on a seasonally adjusted basis after increasing 0.6% in August. So it has come down, but it just met expectation. So it increased by 3.7% year over year. Let's see, the core is 4.1% over the last 12 months. So now between now and the Fed meeting on October 31st and November 1st, they have a decision to make. They need to know, they need to figure out if this is enough for them to just hold the interest rates steady, okay? But according to the Federal Reserve meeting minutes from yesterday, they are looking to raise doing one more rate hike on November 1st. And they're going to make that decision on November 1st at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time or 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So just by looking at this, it looks like shelter, so housing, is still extremely high. So this is one part that is not slowing down. And I believe this is still a lagging data. And I know, I'm going to go over some of the mortgage statistics later on, but a lot of people are not looking to buy a house right now, right? And it makes sense, because why would someone who got a mortgage rate at let's say 2.9% in 2021 go buy a house that is more expensive than 2021 with the mortgage interest rate at 8%, right? So that's why people are not really selling their homes. So the inventory is still low, okay? But the buyers are kind of like just holding back and say, you know what, maybe now is not the right time to buy a house. And this is still showing that the housing prices are still high. The several items within the housing market is still showing high. And let me know in the comment section. It is extremely high, difficult to buy a house right now with an 8% 30-year fixed mortgage rate, right? In the past, with a 4% back in 2014, that's what I got. It was 4.25%. And, I refinanced my home to 2.9% to 30-year fixed mortgage. Buying a house right now probably requires me to put down more than 20% in down payment, depending on the type of house I want to buy, to meet that 25% threshold, because you don't want to pay more than 25% of your gross income towards your mortgage payment, right? So this is what's it's showing right now, is that the housing prices are still that's dragging the inflation rate. Okay. So let me go over this real quick. And looking at food, this is the month over month, all the way to the right. Okay. So you can see here, I guess I can't highlight that. That's an image. But food went up 0.2%. So that's month over month. Okay. So let's see, 0.4%, 1.5% for energy. That was kind of expected. And as well as gasoline going up by 2.1%. So gasoline is one of the main contributing factors to why inflation is still remaining at that level as well. And there are some disinflation indications on the CPI data. So commodities are down by 0.4% here, and then the new vehicles went back up at 0.3%, and used vehicles went down by negative 2.5%. So if you take a look at it here, you see where it says negative 8%. I can't highlight this because this is like a screenshot they put in the PDF, but negative 2.5% month over month for used vehicles. There would be used cars and trucks. So for a while in 2021, the used cars and trucks were going up like for a while, right? So it was kind of like, oh, it made more sense back in 2020 and 2021 to just buy a new vehicle, because the used vehicle cost just as much as a new vehicle back then. But now it's finally kind of going bridging, having that gap between the new vehicles and the used vehicles. So I always recommend that buying a used car makes more sense, because you're not you're not losing that money to like the initial devaluation of buying a new car. So as soon as you drive off the lot, you lose about 15 to 20%. That's just a fact. And it also depends on the type of vehicle that you drive. But that's what it's showing right now, is that the used vehicles are coming back down month over month, and it's down over negative 8% right now. And then the new vehicles are slowly creeping up, but it's not that much. It's about 2.5% year over year. Okay. That makes sense so far, right? Apparel went back down at negative 0.8%. So that is good news. And then the medical care commodities went back down to negative 0.3%. And shelter, again, this is, if you look at the third line from the bottom where it says shelter, so that would be the housing, it went up by 0.6% month over month. So that is incredibly high, with a 7.2%. If you look at the far right column here, that's year over year. Okay. And the other one would be the transportation services. That continues to go up. And last month, we saw a 2% increase. That is crazy high. And then last month, we saw 0.7%. And 2 months ago, it was 2%. But it is still up by 9.1% year over year. That's how you read this chart. If you're just looking at the CPI data for the first time, that's how you want to kind of analyze that situation. Okay. So I typically like to read this from the bottom because I get to see some of the housing immediately, so I don't have to like scroll all the way down. And I obviously don't want to take up too much of your time, and I don't want to take forever to go through every single one of them. But one thing I did want to look for, that was the airfare. That is continuing to go up after some of the deflationary indications for that. But let's see. So other goods and services. So personal care is still going up by 6.1%, which is incredibly high. Let's see. Housing still at 5.6%. Education 2.9%. Let me take a look here. I know that there are a lot more people, a lot more Americans traveling right now, and that airfares are they're starting to go back up after they decline during spring and summer, and now it's just going back up. And I believe that's probably going to continue to go up during the holiday season as well. Legal services went up. Okay, good to know. Meeting with the CPA later this month, and they did raise the rates on me. Let me take a look here. I do want to look for airfare, recreational motor vehicles. Okay, so the used vehicles are still The new vehicles are going up. Okay, there it is. Airfares. So it went up by 2.2%. Wow, that is incredibly high just with a month over month. It has come down negative 13% month over month. So you can see it right here. Let me see if I can I highlight it? There we go. Okay. So this one right here. Okay. So you can always look and obviously, nobody is like I can't predict like a recession based on reading this, right? But this kind of the Federal Reserve is reading this, and they get this data way ahead of everyone else, so they understand the economic the trajectory that it is heading. So, um, are they going to raise rates in November? Possibly. Okay. If they do, it's going to be another 25 basis points. And, most likely they're just going to keep the rates at 5.5 to 5.75% going into 2024. But, during the election season, they might even lower the interest rates. And, how the stock market reacts to that is if they raise another rate, if the stock market is not priced in, then it's most likely it's going to, bring the prices down, the share prices down a lot more. And then going into next year, when the rates finally start to come down, then the stock market start to go back up. So that's something that we definitely want to pay attention to. And let me see here. Okay, so I do want to show you the next inflation quarter, and I am paying attention to the press conference with the Secretary of State here, and I do want to listen to what he's saying. He is currently in Israel, and there is some breaking news in the Middle East, and I will go over that later on. If you're just tuning in, I don't want to touch too much on geopolitics because this is a financial channel, and I do want to keep things apolitical here. So just something that I do want to see what the direction that the Middle East conflict is heading. It could potentially become a large scale war, depending on who they want to fight. And there was a news that just dropped earlier that the Syria just got hit by some Israeli missiles. So that's something that's we're gonna have to pay attention to. So okay, Syria. I don't understand you. There we go. Stupid Siri. All right, let me take a look here. Okay. All right, so this is the inflation now casting from Cleveland Fed that I do tend to pay attention to. I'm going to go ahead and make this screen just a little bit bigger here so you can see it. There we go. Okay, so today the rates have been released, right? So we saw what they were. So going into October, if you look at the month over month increase, looking at 0.21%, which is a lot lower than September and August, and then 0.34 for core CPI, and going into the year over year numbers, we're looking at 3.42 CPI, 42%, and then the core CPI at 4.16%. So obviously we're seeing the inflation coming down a lot. So what we're going to be wondering going forward is the Fed going to make a decision a lot sooner than what the reports say? So they could, just pause interest rates way ahead in advance and just say, you know what, we're just going to ride this out, right? And ride it out and just, the Fed could be like, oh, we're seeing the interest rates eventually coming down to 2%. That's their target rate. And then, they pretty much just kind of stop hiking interest rates because obviously it's hurting the US consumers, and it's especially hurting small businesses. So that's something that we definitely want to pay attention to. Let's see here. Okay. So let me make sure that I didn't miss anything here. Yeah, and then the Jerome Powell's press conference is going to be on November 1st at 11:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. and they're going to release the decision on November 1st at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time or 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, and I do want to show you guys this on the latest jobs report just a little bit where all the jobs are going. So this is actually a popular discussion because there are people who are unemployed, looking to find a new job. And here is where all the jobs were in September 2023. So the strongest sector for job growth in September 2023 was leisure and hospitality. The government again picked up more hiring with a net gain of 73,000 jobs. And we're not seeing any slowdown in the labor market at all. And leisure and hospitality grew by 96,000 jobs. Let me scroll down here. It was 96,000 jobs month over month. That's 1 month. Okay. And then the next one was the government at 73,000. Healthcare and social assistance is another sector that's been really strong throughout the year. And it's grown by almost 66,000 jobs month over month. And I personally believe the healthcare sector will continue to grow over the next decade as more baby boomers going into retirement and need assisted living or extra healthcare. Professional and business services had another increase of 21,000 jobs, and I'm in this industry, and I can tell you that I had to hire more people to help my business grow this year. And as a matter of fact, I have a really excellent team helping me grow my business now, and that's all because of you guys tuning in and subscribing. So thank you so much for being here. And I could also see retail, warehousing, and manufacturing hiring more people going into the holiday season. And I know Target has already started hiring temp workers to do holiday sales from Halloween to Christmas. And if I'm being completely honest with you, and I just don't see any slowdown in the labor market at all. So unfortunately, I could see the interest rates remaining steady going into 2024 unless the Fed decides to drop interest rates out of nowhere. Is it a possibility to see a drop in interest rates in 2024? It's always a possibility. 2024 is going to be a major election season, so anything is possible, right? And here's what's concerning going into Q4 and Q3. I'm sorry, Q4 and let me go and close that. Let me see. Oh no, there we go. Let me look at the consumer spending here. Okay, so here's what's concerning going into Q4 and of 2024. All right, so even as interest rates skyrocketed over the past 18 months, the employment data and consumer spending kept the U.S. economy moving and avoided a recession that everyone predicted in 2023. Right, it never came. And a lot of my clients are working on repaying their student loans starting this month in October. And check this out. U.S. consumers will pay a total of $8 billion a month to their student loans starting in October. And I say again, that's a total of $8 billion every month starting in October. How do you think it's going to impact consumer spending? Probably a lot, right? People will need to cut back on discretionary spending going into the holiday season to make sure that they budget for student loan repayments. And not everyone has the luxury to only cut back on discretionary spending. Some people will have to cut back on their essential expenses and savings, which is another reason why Americans' personal savings rate has plummeted since the beginning of the pandemic in 2020. So when people spend less, what happens to their goods and services? Their prices will need to come down, and that will most likely cut their net profit or the bottom line, right? The Federal Reserve is so fixated on the lagging inflation data when we're already seeing several deflationary indications. This is alarming to me that the Fed is so focused on the core inflation data while millions of Americans are already working on not spending as much money as they used to. could we see a recession going into Q4 2023 and Q1 2024? The probability of a recession is probably even higher than it was at the end of 2022. Not to mention that the housing market is still priced at an all-time high in some markets, while the mortgage rates are on the way to 8% for a 30-year fixed mortgage. And what's really crazy about all of this is that the 15-year fixed mortgage is just 1% lower than the 30-year fixed mortgage. So with a 7.5% fixed mortgage rate for a 30-year term, you're looking at about 6.7% for the 15-year term. This is making it difficult for average Americans to shop for a house right now. And this article shows the latest. You know what? Never mind. That was the press conference that I was waiting for, but that is not it. Let me go ahead and get back into it here. Let me share the screen. Okay, so let me show you this. All right. So almost every American thinks that buying a house in 2023 and 2024 is a bad idea. Fannie Mae did a survey, and 84% of respondents in September said now is a bad time to purchase a house, while only 16% of respondents believe it was a good time to buy. So, in my personal opinion, if you have the cash to buy a house, it makes sense, right? Because you don't, most people don't want to take out a mortgage interest rate at 8%. If you're looking to retire pretty close, if you're in your 50s, you're probably thinking about just buying a house with cash, probably makes more sense. Okay. And if you take a look at the chart for the mortgage here, if I can find my mouse, there we go. There we go. You see that chart? Okay. It is still at a 23-year high since 2000 or 2001. It is crushing affordability across the country. If I didn't own a house right now, I would probably argue that temporarily renting a home might be a better option until I could save at least 15 or 20% for a down payment. It's also difficult for people to sell their houses because why would you sell your house with a 2% or 3% mortgage rate, paying, let's say, $1,500 a month on mortgage, and buy another house with an 8% mortgage rate, paying like $3,500 a month on mortgage, right? So both home buyers and sellers are seeing the pain of a persistent 7% mortgage rate. With home prices staying at about $400,000 in the median range, home sales will most likely decline going into 2024. We'll see about that, right? It could be resilient and just staying at that 400,000 level. And you could see that the inflation chart still shows that it is the one of the biggest weights in the CPI data. Okay. And not to mention, check this out. There have been more mortgage applications rejected in the past in 2023 than ever before. And there we go. Okay, so mortgage payments have become significantly less affordable for home buyers, according to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Nearly a quarter of refinance applications were rejected in 2022, up sharply from 14.2% in 2021. Okay, so now the title of this the article, it says are being rejected for insufficient income, right? And here's why. Lenders are having a difficult time just kind of looking at people's applications and say, you know what, you're not making enough money right now, and you are considered a high risk individual, so we don't want to refinance your home or risk giving you the money, cash out refi, right? A lot of people do that, cash out refi. But take a look at this, right? Overall, 9.1% of home purchase applications among all applicants were denied in 2022. The Consumer Watchdog Agency reported higher than 8.3% in 2021, but a marginal decrease from 9.3% in 2020. Refinance applications were more frequently rejected at a rate of 24.7%. Wow, up sharply from 14.2%. Here are more statistics if you want to read it, but it is becoming even more difficult for anyone to refinance their house, to try to cash out refi, or if they want to, it just doesn't make sense to, uh, refinance right now, right? Because you're potentially going into from 3%, and then you do a cash out refi, the interest rates for that will be even higher. So you're going from 3% to possibly 8% or 9%, right? So your mortgage payments are going to be even higher. So a lot of Americans right now are just stuck at where they are. And I try not to sound like a negative Nancy on most live streams, but I wanted to lay out some facts so that you can kind of see the direction our economy is currently heading. And I want to say this though, the Fed interest rates, inflation, and geopolitics are completely outside of our control. And I want you to stop worrying about things that you can't control. What you can control right now is paying down or paying off your student loan debt, car loans, and credit cards. And I made a decision 10 years ago in 2013 to never take out any more debt other than a mortgage ever again. And I sacrificed 2 years of my life from 2014 to 2016 to completely pay off $110,000 in personal loans, car loans, and credit cards. Do I regret paying off my debt? Nobody will ever say that, right? Of course not. I don't regret that. It's the best feeling ever. And I now have a fully funded emergency fund so that if I lose my job or something happens to this business, I don't have anything to worry about. I spent the next 3 years maxing out my 401k and the after-tax contributions to get to where I am now. Do I worry about things that I can't control? Absolutely not. Do I have some work to do? Of course I do. And my savings rate will remain above 60% going into 2024. My focus now is to pick the best investments out there so that I can achieve financial independence and hopefully retire early from my 9-to-5 workforce. Okay. And this has been another beast of a video, and I hope you got a lot out of it. Anyway, I'm going to go into the Q&A. Thanks for waiting. Let me see. Do you want to go into... This is being live streamed to Facebook and YouTube. So you are just tuning in. I really appreciate you being here. Okay. Let me set this up real quick. I do want to watch the Secretary of State press conference that should be coming up pretty soon. He is in Israel right now, and there are reports saying that Israel just hit Syria in Damascus, which is the capital of Syria. This is being reported by Reuters, and it looks like they have burst of missiles hitting 2 airports at the same time. So that is something that I do want to pay attention to, and as far as what's going on. And I know this is not related to finances, but I'm paying attention to it because I do want to see what the scale of this conflict could potentially go into. So let me go in. One second here. Okay, I'm just gonna mute that for right now. Let's see here. All right. So I don't think it's gonna affect our economy as much. And I was kind of looking into it, and obviously I could be wrong, right? I think this is gonna depend on how the scale of the conflict is going to be. Is this going to stop at Israel versus Hamas, or is this going to become Israel versus Syria, Israel versus Hezbollah in Lebanon? So we'll see. I think that's where we're gonna have to pay attention to and see what's going on, and that's why I am paying attention to what's going on with the conflict in the Middle East. We'll see what happens on that. Let's see here. I don't know. To what? Okay. All right, so I finally got a Roth IRA started like a month ago. I have a pre-tax 401k account with 7K. It'll just count as additional income if I roll it over, correct? If you roll over, let me make sure that I understand the question correctly. Okay, so you have a traditional 401k looking to convert it over to a Roth IRA. So if you did that, it will count as a taxable income for 2020 when you file your taxes in 2024 for 2023. So keep that in mind. Just make sure that you talk to a CPA and understand that your 401k, anything in pre-tax, and you put it in the Roth, you got to pay taxes on that entire amount. Okay, your principal and as well as earnings and interest. One more thing to keep in mind is that once you put money into the Roth IRA, you cannot take money out of the Roth IRA back into your 401k or into Roth 401k. You can't do it. The IRS will not allow it as of 2023. So once you put money into the Roth IRA, it stays in there. So make sure to make that decision with the CPA and have good financial planning going forward. And people do convert that 401k into Roth IRA because when people retire early, let's say they retire at the age of 50 and they have $500,000 in the 401k. Okay, then what happens to the retirees, early retirees, is that because they don't have an active income anymore, their marginal tax rate goes down, right? So they're paying a lot less taxes than they used to when they were making money from the company. So what people do is they don't convert the entire $500,000 from the traditional 401k into a Roth IRA because that would, you would have to pay like 37% of marginal tax rate, effective tax rate of like 20 something percent. That wouldn't be smart. So what people do is they break it down to like, let's say the next 10 years. I'm just giving you an example. It's not specific financial advice to you, but some people break it down by like 5 years. I'm just going to convert $100,000 a year, or some people do 10 years and I'm just going to convert $50,000 a year. So converting $50,000 a year is going to count towards your total taxable income. So you will have to pay income tax on the $50,000, right? You don't pay 50,000, but you would pay, let's say, 11% of the 50,000. But that is still far cheaper than paying 24% of, let's say, 100,000 or $150,000. So that's something that you really want to pay attention to when it comes to what's called a 5-year Roth IRA conversion. Okay, when you convert, just remember, contribution is what you directly contribute to your Roth IRA. Conversion, what you're potentially doing is once you put money into the Roth IRA, 5 years later, you can take that money out completely tax-free and penalty-free. And that's what a lot of financial independence and retire early people do, is that they convert money to the Roth IRA and they wait 5 years, and that becomes a tax-free and penalty-free income straight out of the Roth IRA, regardless of your age. So you have to keep track of how much money you're converting every year, because you need to write that down and make sure you segregate that from your contribution and any earnings and interest that you earn inside the Roth IRA. I have a full tutorial on that. Go to my channel, go to Roth IRA tutorial, and you can watch that. Okay. So I do explain it in detail about the Roth IRA conversion because it is very, very helpful. So thank you for that question. Cool. Heck yeah. Pay him off. I'm so glad that I pay off my debt. I was stupid one time. I was like 26, right? 10 years ago now. That's when I made my decision to completely pay off my debt. I had 2 car loans. I didn't have any student loans because I enlisted. People who enlist typically don't have any student loans, but some people do. Some people do enlist late. But I did have 2 car loans, one personal loan, and I had a TSP loan, and as well as 5 maxed out credit cards. So I have 5 maxed out credit cards at $47,000. I paid us off first by the end of I think it was like it took me about 11 months to pay them all off. Picked up like side hustles. This was like back in 2014. Made additional income to make sure that I paid off my credit cards first because those are the high interest rates, right? So I was paying like 20%, 24, 25%, 2014. Okay. And then I moved on to my personal loan and then my TSP loan. I sold my vehicles. I had an upside. I think my value was upside down, so I ended up taking out additional. I think it was like $7,000 on my personal loan to pay for the difference of the value of the car, the 2 vehicles, and how much I owed. So my personal loan went from like 7,000 to 15,000, but I didn't have like $45,000 in car loans anymore. So I could handle 7,000 or 8,000 instead of $45,000 in the car loans. So vehicles are crazy, right? So we're still seeing this. The car loans right now, there's some of them are financing at like 10%. I don't know if you guys watch the what's the name of that YouTube channel? The guy who roasts somebody on YouTube. Let me know in the comments if you guys know who I'm talking about. Somebody had like 24% in car loans for 6 years, and I'm like, holy crap! You know, that it was a $12,000 vehicle. Now you owe like $40,000 on it. So be very careful when it comes to shopping. I can't remember. Caleb Hammer. What's his name? Caleb Hammer. Love watching his YouTube videos. I really need to catch up on his videos. But yes, pay off your loans, pay off your debt, because you will not regret paying off your debt. If someone tells you that, oh, you should keep your debt because of the interest rates, dude, like people keep arguing about the interest rates. Like, oh, you only pay 4% on the student loan, but you can make 10% in the stock market. But I'm like, but that's a burden that you don't have to have anymore for the rest of your life. Why hold on to a student loan until you're 50 or 60, right? Going to school, taking out a student loan is not necessarily bad if you're going to have a good ROI out of it. So if you went to a 4-year degree and you pay $50,000 for your student loans, but your salary increased from potentially $50,000 a year to $75,000 a year. So you want to use that difference of $25,000 to pay it off within the next 2 years. Otherwise, it's not going to be worth it. Then it's become a bad debt typically for student loans after 3 years you graduate from college. So keep that in mind. Good luck to you. It is never a bad time to fund your Roth IRA at 57. You have what's called a catch-up contribution, an additional $1,000 to your Roth IRA. So $6,500. You have until the tax deadline. So for the 2023 Roth IRA, you have until April 15th or whatever the tax deadline is in 2024 to max out $6,500 plus $1,000 in catch-up contribution because you're over the age of 50. Okay, it's never too late. As long as you're employed, okay, you have to be employed. You have to have an active income to contribute to the Roth IRA. So as long as you're still employed, max out your Roth IRA every single year. I always love. Oh, okay. Let me go back. I always do the match first, which is the 401k employer match or TSP. And then the next one will be maxing out the HSA. And then I do the Roth IRA. And then I go back to the 401k to try to max out the 401k. All right. So that's what I do. And just make sure that you budget that correctly. So let's see. Okay. The Roth IRA has been down 10% since inception. Would you recommend cash out after tax and invest elsewhere, such as real estate? I can't tell you what to do, Mountain Dew. Love Mountain Dew, by the way. You need to take a look at what you're investing, um, and what you mean by inception. So when did you open your Roth IRA? So sounds like you're investing in something that is not making any returns. So I would take a look at that. Excuse me. So take a look at when you're investing. You might be, I don't know, like I can't recommend cashing out any of the retirement accounts because they have such a long-term growth ahead, and it's a tax shelter account, so it is so much more beneficial going into your retirement at age 60. Again, I don't know your entire financial situation, so I can't tell you what to do exactly, but I never recommend taking money out of the Roth IRA and investing in something else. If I were to invest in real estate, which I'm not this year, or maybe not next year because of the mortgage rates, I'm going to use cash that I save on the side to invest in real estate. I completely separate my retirement accounts like Roth IRA, TSP, 401k, HSA from real estate. Okay. So I think of them as two different commodities, right? Real estate is the type of investment that I have in my portfolio. I have real estate in my portfolio. But when I buy real estate, it's going to be strictly on cash that I have saved or maybe in some investments, short term investments. That's what I use to make a down payment on a rental property or something like that. I never touch a Roth IRA to investing something else. When I retire, let's say I'm age 60, and let's say I have $4 million in my Roth IRA, okay? And I can take money out of my Roth IRA at any time, tax free, penalty free. And I have $4 million in it, and I want to buy a house for $500,000, then I could probably argue that, you know what, I'm 60 and I want to buy a house on the beach, a tiny house or something like that. I'm going to use that money from Roth IRA to pay for it. That might make more sense. But if you're still building that financial journey, you're working on your financial independence, then it makes more sense for you to build your Roth IRA, build your net assets first, and then and then buy or consider buying real estate with the cash that you save in a different bucket. Okay, keep those separate as much as you can. I hope that makes sense to you. All right, let me take a yeah. Wow. Okay. Yeah, I'm guessing that's a credit card. 24% interest rate. 10, uh, you know, just prioritize paying that off as quickly as you can. So, just credit cards are what's killing Americans' finances right now. And I'm not targeting you, Potato SB. And this is like talking to everyone who has credit card debt. Yesterday, today, next week, tomorrow be the best time for you to make that plan to get out of credit card debt as quickly as you can. I was dumb too. I have 5 maxed out credit cards back in 2013 and then going to 2014. It took me about 11 months to completely get out of it. $47,000. You're like, holy crap. Did you make a lot of money? No. I just picked up a lot of side hustles to just put all that extra money into credit cards. And I still use credit cards today. If you're not a credit card person, if you're not good at paying off your balance every single month, if you can't control your spending, don't use a credit card. Don't ever use it. You know, some of my clients choose not to use credit card ever. They just use debit card to make their purchases, and they're happy with it because they don't want to be out of control with their spending. They want to be in control of their spending. So try to pay it off as quickly as you can. Thanks. All right. Cable. Oh, you know what? Press conference starting.
agony of not knowing the fate of their loved ones, something that I don't think most of us can truly understand, truly contemplate if you're not in their shoes. No one should have to endure what they're going through. There's so many families like them. The United States is one of more than 30 countries where family members, friends, entire communities are being forced to go through this wrenching experience because of Hamas's disdain for human life and basic human dignity. We're doing everything we can to secure the release of the hostages, working closely with our Israeli partners. I brought with me to Israel our Deputy Special Representative for Hostage Affairs, Steve Gillen, who joined my meetings with the families and will stay on the ground here to support the efforts to free their loved ones. I also had a chance to see up close the genuinely inspiring solidarity of the Israeli people in the wake of Hamas's attacks. When I visited one of the many sites where citizens have swiftly organized efforts to collect, to sort, to distribute donations to those in need, including many families who've been displaced from the south. I had a chance to meet with some of the volunteers, several of them dual U.S.-Israeli citizens. One young couple told me how they narrowly escaped with their own lives when Hamas terrorists attacked the Supernova Music Festival. They told me about their friends who were not fortunate, who were killed at that festival. Others taken hostage or still missing. In our time here in Israel, everywhere we've gone, we've met people who've been touched in one way or another by Hamas's bloody hand. A loved one, a friend, a classmate, a neighbor, a colleague, killed, maimed, missing. We encountered a nation knit together by grief, but also a nation united in resolve. The United States shares that resolve. We stand shoulder to shoulder with the people of Israel. From here, I'll go on to Jordan, where I'll meet with His Majesty King Abdullah and with Palestinian Authority President Abbas. And then over the coming days, we'll visit with leaders in Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Egypt, and Qatar. Across each of these engagements, we'll continue pressing countries to help prevent the conflict from spreading and to use our leverage with Hamas to immediately and unconditionally release the hostages. We'll also discuss how we can continue to make real our affirmative vision for a region that's more peaceful, more prosperous, more secure, more integrated. And in fact, that is the choice. And the choice in some ways has been made even more stark by the actions of Hamas on Saturday. One path forward is a region that comes together, integrated, normalized relations among its countries, people working in common purpose, to common benefit, more peaceful, more stable. Then there's the path that Hamas has shown in stark, clear light: terror, destruction, nihilism. The choice could not be more clear. We know the choice that we're making, our partners are making. We have work to do to carry it through. In all that I did today, I was supported by an exceptional team here in Israel. It's been doing crucial work in incredibly difficult conditions, led by a remarkable chargé d'affaires, Stephanie Hallett. Stephanie's doing an extraordinary job. We also look forward to welcoming our future ambassador, Jack Lew, to Israel. As many here know, Hamas launched this attack on Simchat Torah. This is the day that Jews celebrate finishing the reading of the Torah. This Saturday, Jews around the world will chant the first words of the book of Genesis. They'll read that in the beginning, there was darkness, and then there was light. That the first person was alone until a partner joined them. I'm standing here today alongside our Israeli friends and all those who reject terror to help find the glimmers of light, even in this moment of deep darkness, and to make clear that as long as there's the United States, Israel will never be alone. With that, happy to take some questions.
First
right,
question goes to
questions.
Sean Tandon with AFP.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Good evening. Could I just ask you to begin with? Prime Minister Netanyahu has shared what are very gruesome photos. He said that he shared them with you.
Yeah.
I know they're very disturbing to look at, but I wanted to see, first of all, what your reaction was to those. And if I may, like, while understanding and acknowledging the great suffering that's been experienced by Israelis, there's a lot of concern in some quarters about the situation in Gaza as well. People looking for food in light of the cutoff. Was that discussed at all in terms of the humanitarian situation in Gaza? Was there any call for easing some of these conditions or for restraint as we expect a ground offensive?
Okay, I do have to go, unfortunately. So I'm going to be back on the regular live stream schedule on Wednesday. That would be October 18th. And the next live stream is going to be about everything you need to know about the Roth conversion strategy. So some of the questions that you guys asked today about the Roth conversion, that's going to be very helpful for that next live stream. I only go live every other Wednesday. But today was a little bit different because of the CPI release. But the next live stream, again, I'm going to go over Roth IRA conversions, traditional 401k, Roth 401k, and all that stuff too. So if you have any questions, tune into my live stream next Wednesday, October 18th. Okay. So with that said, I appreciate you guys tuning in, and I just checked my subscriber count, and I have like 21,000 subscribers. And I was like, oh man! And one of my lottery videos, my lottery video, it's about to hit like 700,000 views, and I'm like, holy cow! Never had a video that has that many view counts. So if you haven't checked that out, go ahead and check it out, and let me know what you think of it. All right. But anyway, appreciate you guys being here. Have a great morning.